Hi, I'm Amy Kelly and this is my garden at home. I am going to show you some of the best plants for summer colour that are great for pollinators as well. And if you watch through to the end, I'm going to show you how you can make more of these lovely plants for free as well. So please like and subscribe and let me show you my garden. I am nestled between two beautiful pink salvias. We have got Candy Dream and Joy, and the flowers on these are just stunning. You know it's summer when the salvias are flowering. Salvias are members of the mint family, and these are really easy to propagate. I'm going to show you how to do that at the end. Now, these are South American natives. So I am here in Ireland, which is not known for its warm, balmy temperatures, but these grow outside all year round. They're on very well-drained, gravelly soil, which is why I'm able to leave them outside through our winters, which regularly get between 0 and -5 degrees Celsius for fairly short periods of time. These wouldn't survive a really long cold winter, but for that sort of temperate winter, they will be just fine. If you're living in a colder area, it's worthwhile growing them in pots where you can bring them to a warmer, more sheltered area, or lifting them and putting them in an unheated greenhouse over the winter. Different varieties of salvia are more or less tolerant of that cold weather, but these varieties have survived for me even through our cold winters. So these are plants that you can grow in a temperate garden, or if you're lucky enough to live in a warm, sunny country, these will just flourish for you. This beautiful purple flowered salvia beside me is called Nachtvlinder. Now it has quite a strong sagey sort of a smell, which isn't going to be to everyone's taste, but it is a magnificent grower. It will cope with any conditions that you throw at it. It will self-seed if you give it half the chance, and it will send out runners below the soil so that it can spread into a huge big clump for you. But it grows beautifully well with other plants. It's not too thuggish. It's just beautiful with that lovely green, almost purple tinged foliage, the lovely dark purple on the stems, and then those beautiful, rich, velvety purple flowers. It is a fabulous salvia for the summer garden. So whatever colour you're looking for, whether it's a white or a red or an apricot or a pink or a purple, you will find a salvia to suit you, and they're so worth growing. This magnificent pale yellow daisy is a Leucanthemum. They are perennial, so they come back every year for you. They spend most of the time as a little flat basal rosette of leaves, and then they send up these magnificent 2-foot tall, 60 centimetre tall flower spikes. They are just stunning, and because of that lovely daisy flower shape, they're the perfect landing pad for all sorts of pollinators. These are especially popular with all of those beneficial hoverflies and insects with really small mouth parts. So these are wonderful to have in the garden. The more different flower shapes you can have, the larger variety of insects your garden can accommodate. These beauties are Japanese anemones. Say that 10 times fast. Beautiful colour, perennial, comes back every year for you, very low maintenance, tolerant of drier soil conditions. I've got mine growing right beside a hedge here. The hedge is taking a lot of moisture out of the soil. These are still happy as Larry. Look at the amount of pollen on these flowers. Fabulous for pollinators. Grows easily from seed. They come in varieties of white, pale pink and darker pink. Just beautiful. We can't talk about summer flowers and not mention thyme. Thyme is beautiful. It comes in a range of varieties, from variegated leaf to different flower colours. You can get creeping thyme that's really low growing and has beautiful dark pink flowers. You can get the big woody thymes. All of them are edible, all of them great for use in the kitchen. All of them flower their socks off in the summer, and they're great for bees. One of the real challenges for bees is a parasite called varroa mite. Now, one of the treatments that beekeepers use to help bees shed those mites naturally is an extract from thyme oil. So if you have got loads of thyme growing in your garden, bees can come and drink that nectar that's infused with that oil, and there is some evidence that it does help them to shed those parasites themselves. So if you're only going to grow one wildlife friendly plant in your garden, make it thyme. You can eat it, it looks lovely, it's great for the bees. All it needs is sun and well drained soil, and all you need to do is, after it's finished flowering, cut it back by 2/3 and it will spring back and grow for you for several years. This absolutely beautiful plant has the great misfortune of being called toad flax, but don't let that put you off. It comes in this lovely pink or a dark purple. Wonderful for wildlife, incredibly easy to grow. It will grow in whatever conditions you have, I promise you. It does self-seed quite readily, but the roots are not difficult to get out. It's not like a dandelion or something where it's really a nightmare. These pull up really easily, so if you have more than you need, it's easy to get rid of them. But if you would like more, they will very happily oblige for you. They're so good for pollinators. They're drought tolerant. These have a very small footprint in the garden, so they do most of their growing vertically, and the little flower spikes are just stunning. Lovely for cottage or informal gardens. Beautiful for a cut flower as well, although they do tend to drop petals a little bit, but just so easy to grow, so good for bees. It would be rude not to have one in your garden. This plant is just ordinary culinary sage like you would use in the kitchen. But even normal sage will send up flower spikes. You can see this one here has those really beautiful pale purple streaked with white flowers. That kind of culinary sage is a fantastic addition to the garden. The beautiful silvery glaucous leaves are an attractive foil for your other flowering plants, so there's no reason why you can't put it in a flower garden. Needs as much sun as you can give it and really well drained soil, but it has the advantage of not needing a lot of water. So if you're somewhere that gets water restrictions in the summer where it's maybe more difficult to water your plants, sage is a great one to bear in mind. This magnificent sea of purple beside me is purple sage. Still absolutely fine for use in the kitchen, tastes exactly like your normal sage, but with beautiful little purple flowers. Young leaves have this beautiful purple tint to them. The more mature leaves maintain the purple veining, but they take on more of that silvery glaucous colour we associate with traditional sage. I've got my purple sage growing beside another wonderful plant. Now, it's only in bud so far, but in a couple of weeks' time, this lovely sedum is going to be covered in fabulous pink flowers. Sedum is sometimes known as ice plant, and it has these beautiful fleshy leaves, which are actually edible. If you like your cottage garden plants, you will recognise these. This is Astrantia major. Now these have been flowering for weeks. They're a really long-lasting flower. Really technically they're a spring flower, but as you can see, still giving me fabulous colour. They are just beautiful. They're so easy to grow, and those lovely little pincushion flowers are wonderful for bees. This rich red showstopper is Crocosmia Lucifer. Crocosmia are corms, or like little bulbs. They're native to South Africa. They will grow just about anywhere. They're drought tolerant. They're fully hardy. They'll take any amount of cold, any amount of heat that you can throw at them, and they produce these absolutely incredible flowers. I've grown these from seed, and they will seed readily. So once you have them in your garden, if you let them, you will soon have even more, and they are just a delight. They take no work whatsoever, except possibly needing to just hold them up with a bit of support, because those flowers are so massive that the weight of them can sometimes pull the stem down a little bit. And other than that, all you need to do is wait for the leaves to die down over the winter, snip them away so it's nice and clean and tidy looking, and then they'll grow again for you in the spring. Don't you just love plants that do all the work for you? Believe it or not, this zingy froth of lime green and gold is parsley flowers. Ordinary culinary parsley, both flat leaf and that curly leaf Italian parsley, will grow these magnificent flower heads. They're amazing for cut flowers, they're great for pollinators, they're wonderful filler for the garden, so the flowers themselves are exquisite. But as a backdrop for brighter colours, I think you can probably just see the lovely pink phlox behind me. They help everything in the garden pop, and you can eat every part of the plant. You still get the leaves that you can use in the kitchen, kitchen, and you get these beautiful flowers as well. Because of the shape of the parsley stems, these are great for flower arranging. I love to just cut a nice long stem of the parsley, stick that in the vase, and that gives you a lovely network of stems that create a frame that you can build your other flowers around. Really wonderful one to have in the garden. I don't know why more people don't let their parsley go to seed. I will warn you, all of these are seed heads, so you can end up with rather more parsley in your garden than you intended, but any extra that you have, just pull it up and use it in the kitchen. So let's talk about growing these from seed first, because that is so easy to do. Now you'll see on this plant here, we have some little seed pods. These little pale brown cases. So this is the little seed pod from the Salvia, and I don't know if you can see inside there's a couple of little black seeds, and they're super easy to get out. You just tip them up, give it a little wriggle, and there we can see the seeds have popped out. Really easy to grow salvias from seeds. I just let these fall into the garden and then gather up the seedlings when they arrive. But for surest germination, just take the fresh seeds right now as they're ready. I've gathered up plenty of salvia seed pods. Each of these little pods usually has 2 seeds in it. So you just give them a gentle little twiddle. Any seeds that are in there will pop out. So there we have quite a few little salvia seeds. This is a technique that works with just about anything that gives seeds. But it is worth having a quick check on the internet. Some seeds need a certain period of cold before they'll germinate, and the planting depth for different seeds is different. So these benefit from having a little bit of light to help them germinate. So I've got my nice clean plant pot with fresh compost, and going to plant these evenly spaced. Put half a dozen or so in there. Just going to gently push them into contact with the soil using my fingers. Now you could leave it like that and just water it and put a little bit of cling film on top of it, or you can use a very thin sprinkling of vermiculite or compost. So that's what I'm going to do, just a really thin sprinkle, so a little bit of light is still getting through. You're aiming to just have a couple of millimeters of soil over the top of these. Really the whole point is just to make sure that the seeds are keeping moist all the way around. So we're going to give this a really good water. Label the pot, and again, this is the time of year that these seeds would naturally be sowing themselves into the garden, so you don't need any extra heat. Pop this somewhere warm and bright, and within a few weeks hopefully I will start to see some salvia seeds emerging. I'll let you know how I get on with those. Salvias grow from seed, and you can also grow them really readily from cuttings. You'll see that salvias have fresher, soft foliage growing at the top. See how that's all flexible? At the base, it's woodier foliage. So if you're familiar with growing lavender or rosemary that has that tougher, woodier stem, that's what it's like at the base. So this is the softwood section of stem here. This is the hardwood. And these are new, nice, springy softwood shoots with no flowers on them. That's exactly what we're after for growing our cuttings. Once you've gathered up as many cuttings as you'd like, if you're not going to pot them on immediately, pop them straight into a plastic bag or some damp paper towel, because as soon as you snip those stems, they're starting to lose moisture, and you don't want that. So unless you're going to pot them on right this second, pop them into a bag or some paper towel. So you've got your nice healthy salvia cuttings. And if you look along the stem, you'll see that where the leaves come out, there's little nodules, little ridges. That is where all of the hormones are that trigger root or leaf growth. We want to snip right below one of those joints. So get your nice clean, and I mean clean, use an antibacterial or a bleach or whatever cleaner. Just make sure you're killing any potential germs or viruses on your snips. And you're going to snip just below one of those nodules. And we're going to remove most of these leaves. So once the plant puts on root growth, new leaves will grow from the base here. But while it is growing those new roots, we want it to have as little stress as possible. So I like to take off all but those last couple of leaves. And I'll take a small pot of fresh compost and a small dibber or a chopstick or a pencil. And you're going to use that small dibber just to make a little hole. And then pop your new cutting in. And we're going to repeat that with the rest of the cuttings. Some of these larger ones, we've got space to actually take more than one cutting from. So we have our nodule at the bottom. I'm going to snip off those excess leaves. Now that one single segment has got everything that the plant needs. The secret to successful cuttings is understanding how plants grow. So we have this lovely cutting that we've just taken. There's leaves, a big section of bare stem, leaves, another big section of bare stem, leaves, another section of bare stem. That section of bare stem that has no lumps or nodules or anything of it, that is never going to grow leaves and it's never going to grow roots. All of the hormones that the plant has that tells it to grow something are concentrated at these nodule points. So whenever you're trying to grow cuttings, those areas where the leaves come out, those little nodules, those are your magic spots. That's where you're wanting to cut. So this little cutting here, nothing is ever going to grow out of that bottom. Roots are going to grow out of there, and then we can encourage leaves to grow from here. So just that one little section there is all that we need for a cutting. So I'll show you what that looks like. We take off the unnecessary leaves at the bottom because that's going to be underground. It certainly doesn't need those. We snip off just below where the leaves were. That's where all the hormones are that are going to tell the plant to grow new roots. So nice clean cut there. And then just above where those leaves are. So we're going to leave just one single leaf on that, and in fact I'm going to cut that leaf in half. So it still has a little bit of leaf so that the plant can produce a little bit of chlorophyll, but it will grow new leaves from this magic area at the top. So we've got our little pot of soil, got our little tiny dibber, dig a hole, pop that in and seal the soil around it. So now we've got this piece of cutting left. So the leaves were below there, we cut them off. So this whole section of stem at the bottom, that's never going to grow anything. It's smooth, there's no nodules, there's no leaves, there's nothing. That's waste. We don't need that at all. This little tiny bit here, again, we've got the same trick. The roots are going to grow out from here, so we don't need that leaf. We're going to take off some of these other leaves so that our little cutting doesn't have to try and provide water for all of these big leafy leaves. I'm just going to leave it a couple of small ones. So that's a really small little cutting, but that is very likely to grow. So again, I'm going to pop our little dibber in, seal the soil around it, and I'm just going to carry on for the rest of the cuttings. So we've got a pot there, potted up with 5 nice little cuttings. I'm just going to mark what it is because you never remember afterwards. Give that a good watering. So you really want to saturate that soil. That is going to do 2 things. It's going to make the soil that's in the pot come into really good contact with the stem, and it's going to provide moisture and humidity for the plants. Now there's one more thing you can do, and this is optional. You can get a clear plastic or polythene bag and you can pop it just loosely over the top of your pot. Now the purpose of this is to hold more moisture in. Again, those cuttings have got no roots whatsoever, so they're just losing water. They can soak up a tiny bit through the stem, but very little. So until they start to grow roots, you need to keep them as humid as you can, out of the wind, not in direct sunlight. So you want them in somewhere that's light, but in direct sunlight and nice and humid. Bathroom windowsill is ideal. This is a technique that you can use for planting so many different seeds, taking cuttings from so many different plants. So the parsley will self-seed itself like crazy. Any of your salvias respond really well to that cutting technique. That trick of knowing that the hormones are concentrated where the leaves are or where the nodules are, that will see you in good stead for taking softwood cuttings from just about anything. That lovely big yellow daisy, the Leucanthemum, that's a little bit different. The best way to get more plants from that is wait until it's dormant in the winter, dig the whole thing up and break it off into chunks. It's called division. It responds really well to it. You'll be able to get usually several plants from one big clump like that. The Crocosmia, again, will self-seed, or you can sow it in seeds in pots just like this. The culinary sages, the thyme, both of those again will seed, but easiest to grow them from cuttings. And again, that same technique of looking for where the leaves are or the nodules to know where to make your cuts is the key to success. So whichever propagation method you choose to employ, please have a go at it. Whenever you are using your own seeds or growing your own cuttings, you are helping the environment. Every plant that you buy from the shop has been grown somewhere else and looked after somewhere else and transported to you. If you can grow it all at home, you're saving all of those carbon miles. So not only are you getting amazing plants for free, and not only are you growing plants that are great for wildlife, but you're also doing something amazing for the planet. And I think that's something we can all really get behind. I hope that you have liked and subscribed, because I've got so many more videos to show you. And any questions, any comments, anything, go into the comments section below. I try to answer as many of them as I possibly can. So if you're not sure about planting depth or anything for your different seeds, ask me and I'll help you if I possibly can. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.